We are now standing in the settlement of Nokdim near the Wadi Tekoa. Wadi Tekoa in Arabic, it is also called Wadi Darajeh, is a wadi going from the biblical settlement of Tekoa, the town of the prophet Amos, from Tekoa to the Dead Sea. This wadi is a very deep wadi with big caves on the slopes of the wadi. We can see some of them right here beneath the place that we are standing on. In these caves of Wadi Tekoa, Wadi Darajeh, here the Jewish people was reborn. Why? When? And here is the story about the interesting, the amazing story about the caves in this wadi. We remember from Beth El that Judah, the Maccabee, was killed by the Greek Syrian army commanded by Bakrides. Judah was killed and the army of the Maccabees was destroyed. Jerusalem was reconquered by the Greek army, and all the orders, the royal orders, the royal decrees against the Jewish people were renewed. So the rebellion of the Maccabees, the rebellion of Judah the Maccabee, failed. And it seemed to be the end of the Jewish people. But no. The brother of Judah, Jonathan, decided to continue the rebellion. He couldn't continue it on the mountains of Beth El, north of Jerusalem, because those mountains were conquered by the Greek army. He had to run away, to flee from Beth El, north of Jerusalem, to the caves here in Wadi Tekoa, Wadi Darajeh. Here is the story in the book of the Maccabees. Jonathan decided not to give up, but to continue the rebellion. He had to leave the mountains of Beth El, and he came to the desert of Tekoa, where he concealed with his people in the caves of Wadi Darajeh. But this is not the end of their troubles. This is not the end of the disaster that befell the Maccabees. When they were here in the caves of the Wadi, they brought with them their wives and their children. But the families couldn't survive in the caves. It was too hard to live here. So Jonathan decided to send the families to the Nabateans, who lived on the mountains of Moab, east of the Dead Sea. They had an agreement with Judah. So he took advantage of that agreement and sent the families to the tribes of the Nabateans, east of the Dead Sea. And he expected them, the Nabateans, to welcome the families. They were brought there by Johanan, the brother of Jonathan, Joan. They were brought to the tribes of the Nabateans. But there, the Nabateans did not respect the agreement because Judah was killed and the rebellion failed. So instead of helping the families of Jonathan, they killed Joan and all the members of the families of Jonathan. It was an unbelievable disaster. It seemed to be the total end of the rebellion. And here, Jonathan, the Maccabee, and few men, few warriors, few fighters, here in the cave, they mourned their families, the members of the families. They mourned the death of Yochanan, their brother. But after 7 days of mourning, Jonathan decided again not to give up, not to surrender, but to continue the rebellion. But this time, he acted in an unexpected way. He took his men, few people, he took them from the cave in the wadi, and he went with them along the wadi to the Dead Sea, climbed the mountains of Moab, and there he found the Nabateans in the middle of a wedding. And he attacked them by surprise, killed many of them, and took revenge from the Nabateans for their betrayal, for their murder of the families of Jonathan and his men. This act of Jonathan inspired again the rebellion. It brought many people who were desperate, who gave up, who decided to end the rebellion. It brought many people back to Jonathan. And hundreds of Jews come to these caves, and the rebellion bursts out, and the rebellion begins again here in the Wadi, in Wadi Darajeh, in the desert of Tekoa. And after 2 years of fighting with Bakchides, with the Greek army, Jonathan succeeded to defeat Bakchides, to wear him out, to make him tired of the war against the Jewish people. And after 2 years, Bakchides, the Greek commander, decided to sign an agreement with Jonathan to go back to Syria, and Jonathan celebrated his victory by going to Jerusalem and again renewing the temple, renewing the Jewish life in Jerusalem. And later, after 15 years, he and his brother Shimon the Maccabee, they succeeded to establish an independent Jewish state. So the success of the rebellion is not the rebellion of Judah. The rebellion which succeeded was the rebellion of Jonathan, which started here in the caves of Wadi Darajeh, of Wadi Tekoa. And here we can derive from this story that happened, from this dramatic, amazing story that happened here in the caves of the Wadi, we can derive the great spirit of the rebellion of the Maccabees. Because Jonathan, unlike Judah, he renewed the rebellion after the failure of Judah. And Jonathan teaches us not to give up even after one failure, after 2 failures, after 3 failures. It is written in the Bible, Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. A righteous person, a righteous man, even if he fails 7 times, he continues to fight for the Torah and for the faith in God, because faith in God is unbreakable. And the story of Jonathan that took place here more than 2,000 years ago brings us this great lesson, that a righteous person The Jewish people never gives up, even after great defeats, even after great failures. The belief, the faith, our faith in God gives us such strength that we never give up. And Jonathan is a great example, a wonderful example of that faith in God, of that heroism that succeeded to continue the Jewish people. And the Jewish people is still alive. Am Yisrael Chai, after 4,000 years.